we often mention around here, welcome back to We Were Gamers, a podcast in the midst of a non-ending, never-ending would be the correct term, heat wave that has sparked a new wildfire near Michael and I. Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Fortunately,
I was going to say, fortunately, we are not under the pall of smoke, but I got a pretty good picture earlier of, I saw the fire like 5 minutes after it started, and then within a half an hour, I got a pretty good picture of the mushroom cloud that it was forming.
And further from the fire and able to breathe, probably, JJ, welcome.
Yeah, I'm here. No fire near me, although the greater San Diego area, I believe, has one or two going on somewhere. Quite a bit smaller, though, than the big ones that have been going here in California.
Yes. Safe thoughts to everybody that's out there that's working on these fires or near them, etc. They have already been... this one down here has already caused a few injuries, so... just, be safe, people. Don't do dumb things near flames. They can move faster than you think.
And hey, actually, public service announcement, if you have drones, don't fly those near the fire. What the hell are you doing? Stop that. Very important that you super don't do that, because those drones being there prevent the fire department legally from being able to dump water from helicopters on those fires. If they see one drone, they have to take all the helicopters that are in the air and turn them away. From one jerk guy who wants to get a sweet picture for his Instagram, you will cause the fire to burn down another house or something. So please don't do that.
Good PSA there. Just be cognizant that fire crews, emergency crews are there for your benefit and not for your entertainment. That's a good way to sum that up, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, moving on. Wow, it was a good weekend until the heat wave came back. Overall, I hope you guys had a good time. I don't know what you've all been up to, but that's why we're here on Mondays, to check in with one another on a podcast. How'd you guys do?
Not bad. We had some family in town.
Nice.
My mother-in-law was in town for the weekend just to visit, and we had a good time, sort of just taking it easy with her, trying to avoid the heat as best we could. We went up to the Skirball Cultural Center. I don't know if you guys have ever been up there. It's basically right around the corner from the Getty.
I've driven past it many times, but I don't think I've ever actually been inside.
Yeah, it was my first time having been there too, but we went because right now they have a big exhibition on Jim Henson and his work.
Jim Henson, along with probably Mr. Rogers, would be two of probably the most underappreciated influences on television. And I say that knowing that a lot of people talk about Mr. Rogers and his influence on television, but Jim Henson as well.
There's also recently been a movie about Mr. Rogers, or a documentary or something.
Oh yeah, it just came out actually.
It's in theaters right now.
Yeah, and I still think that doesn't do enough justice for those two guys. They could definitely fill a few different autobiographies or biographies on how much they've done for television and in general children's programming. It's amazing. Not to derail your Skirball Center thing. Sorry.
No, it's cool. There was a lot of... It didn't focus as much on his life outside of his career, which I was okay with, but it did pick up basically how he got his start with the arts, basically, and then how he focused in on puppetry, and then his appearances on some of the early late night variety shows at a local level and then at a national level, and how that eventually spun into the Muppets, which, fun fact, the Muppets was produced in England. I did not know that.
Huh.
Yeah. He shopped it to a bunch of American studios and nobody wanted to pick it up, and then found a studio in the UK that was willing to take it on and did the production of it for all those years that it was on the air.
Did you ever see, did they have at the thing that one of the films, I can't remember the name. I'm going to try and remember the name of it while I'm saying this to you. But he did some experimental filmmaking. Did they talk about that there?
They did talk about his experimental filmmaking.
Timepiece.
Yes, they had clips of Timepiece playing in the exhibit.
Yeah,
and they
also crazy.
Yeah, the 2-minute clip they showed of it looked definitely experimental.
They showed 2 minutes of it?
2 or 3 minutes, yeah.
I wonder if that's a rights thing, because as far as I remember, Timepiece is maybe 15 minutes long.
Oh.
It's not a...
It's a short, I know that, yeah.
Or anything, it's just Anyway, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, that was trippy. He also had an experimental nightclub that he was trying to get off the ground that never came to fruition, but it sounded just as off the wall as Timepiece was.
What does experimental nightclub mean?
It means we just got a podcast title.
I mean, but
that'll work. It was more of a sensory experience than your traditional nightclub. So none of the walls would be flat surfaces. They would all be textured shapes, and he would project images and light onto both them and to the dancers that were hired for the club, kind of like go-go dancer girls. Mm-hmm. And it was as much to go and dance along with the music as it was to experience this almost performative art piece.
So a fun house made to make you go crazy.
Or what a modern club looks like, which you would probably consider to be
maybe
crazy.
Maybe a little bit more like that, yeah.
Wow. Very cool. I did not know that about him.
JJ, what did you get up to this weekend?
I did. I played some games, but also my wife and I finally picked out a new couch for our living room. So we're...
Ooh.
Yeah, we've been talking about getting a sectional for a while, so we finally decided what we wanted and what we wanted to do, and nailed down all the things we liked and didn't like, and went in there and finally did it. So, yay! But I mean, still hold on though, because it's not there yet or anything. So.
Right? Yeah, I feel like that's an easy tie-in to start in our adulting minute.
I was just gonna say, yep,
because that's definitely shopping for couches, while at the end, very gratifying, is maybe one of the more boring things to do.
It was, she uses the room more than I do.
Right.
She's, but that doesn't mean that I don't have opinions about how I want it to look, or, I agree that the furniture that's there currently doesn't fit our needs and doesn't do what we want. So let's get something else. But then, do we like the curtains that are there, or should we get different ones? Or do we like the rug? Should we get a different one? Should we get the new table, or all this? What's the, how does the room
just have to
look?
redesign the whole room.
Yeah, exactly. Redo the whole room, of course. And that's what the, the people at the furniture stores or whatever want to pitch you. Oh, we can get you a new table, an end table, and a lamp, and all this. It's in your budget. Wow. Of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
But, in the end, we knew we just really wanted to get a couch and maybe a rug. And so we did that, and now it's a question of figuring out who to donate the ones we have currently two. Wait, I don't know. English is hard. Where to donate the current furniture and stuff that we have, and then what to do while we wait.
Where did you sign? Because this might be interesting info for people. I've done furniture donation before, and it's across the board, very hit and miss on who accepts what. Where did you land on a couch and all this other stuff? Because maybe it'll help somebody else out there that not go through hours of research.
Places that we know take them, but I don't know necessarily all the process yet. We haven't really gone that far. Mm-hmm. The Wounded Warrior Project, I know, will accept furniture.
That's a great cause.
Yeah, I don't know what their conditions are or anything. A lot of the charities, because there's so much just like complete garbage out there, may just not accept certain kinds of things or whatever. Mm-hmm. I know the Battered Women's Shelter of San Diego accepts this kind of stuff. And I know Goodwill does too, but I'm not sure how and to what level. It may be that you have to take the stuff to Goodwill rather than some places will come and pick it up. I think almost all of them will not move it for you, but if it happened to be outside, for instance, they would come by and grab it.
Right.
So we need to figure out how we're going to do that. Those are the only places we've really investigated at this point. But I'm sure there's tons of other ones that accept this kind of stuff. Because the couch and the chair I have are kind of old and ratty. I don't really I would feel bad trying to sell them to someone on Craigslist. Not that they're not fine or whatever, but I don't need the $50 or whatever they're going to go for.
It's not going to be worth
max.
The time, right?
Yeah, it's I'll deal with offers. Oh, I'll give you $10 or I'll trade you this stack of pogs or whatever. I don't want to deal with that, so just donate them. Take the tax write-off or whatever.
The tax. Sometimes you really got to do that math too. This is a crass thing to say, but sometimes it's worth the tax write-off instead.
Yeah. So
which
we'll see.
Is maybe how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, charitable giving is good in general, and we certainly don't want them. And if someone else would use it, great. So. Yeah, I think the rug is going to be the harder one to get rid of because it's really big and heavy and sheds, and I have no idea what we're going to do with it.
I don't need a rug.
I wasn't offering it to you because
I'm just getting out ahead of this.
You have a dog that sheds enough. I don't think you need this rug also. No. Although maybe it would disguise the dog hair with the rug carpet, so I don't know.
Oh,
anyway, something to think about. Anyway, what about you, Andrew?
The adulting minute. I found a new adult therapy session way to do a personal cleansing,
dealing with the stress of adulting. You
mean?
Yeah.
So
man,
for all the people that have had to deal with, because I know what Michael's going to go into next.
Okay.
When you get home from what Michael had to deal with, and you just really need to chillax for a minute. Mm-hmm. I have found a new therapy for those of us that listen to We Were Gamers, because I know all y'all, this will apply. Go into your cabinet, find some sort of old piece of gaming equipment, get a screwdriver, lightly take it apart, and then clean it.
Okay.
I bought, I was in need of a new, or not new, but another Xbox 360 controller. So I would have two for playing games on the Steam Link, for two-player games on the Steam Link, because we went to play a game this past weekend, the wife and I, and we said, oh, well, why don't I have some Lego games on Steam. Why don't we boot oh, wait, I only have one controller for the PC. I have two for our PlayStation, but so went out and eBayed, because Xbox 360s don't really exist anymore, and old...
Andrew, I don't want to throw your plan off, but Steam has integration with a bunch of controllers now, so it's possible you could have just plugged your PS3 controller in and it would have worked.
Yeah. But this was cheap-ish to find an old... I like the Xbox 360 controller.
Though, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I have a wireless adapter for 360. Maybe this helps the situation. My Steam Link has plugged into it a wireless adapter for 360 controllers.
Okay, got it.
That changes things. Yeah.
So unless I go buy a PS4 controller with Bluetooth, I would need to accommodate some other system for my controller, and it's not worth it. For the, I think it cost me $15 to get a wireless Xbox transform, the best version of the Xbox 360 controller that came with a rechargeable battery and a charging cable and all that stuff. So, funny story for those people that remember the Electricity Minute 2.0. This battery also needed to be jump started. Crazy, right? So we did a better job this time with 9 volts, getting it back up to code and charging again.
Less daisy chaining.
Well, it was much faster this time. That is for sure. Knew what I was doing, and I had a voltimeter out and ready.
Having the tools is half the battle.
Yeah, exactly. This controller I could see in the cracks was pretty dirty, so I just took it apart, and for some reason it was extremely therapeutic to literally just try to do nothing else except sit here and get it nice and clean with alcohol and cotton swabs. And I suggest if you have an NES lying around or something else you haven't just, used or cleaned in a while, maybe if you need to relax after, say, car trouble.
Yeah, let's talk about car trouble. Because we had a little bit of it yesterday, and sitting here thinking about it. I'm actually it finally hit me. I'm really glad it didn't happen on Saturday when we were driving all the way up to the museum.
Yeah, small victories.
Yeah, but the group that I play with had a concert yesterday afternoon down in San Juan Capistrano, right around the corner from the Mission. There's a nice little park with an outdoor stage. And we thought that it might be fun to go down early, spend some time walking through the Mission. They have a nice little audio tour that you can walk yourself through and listen to some of the history. So we were on our way down there. We were within sight of the off-ramp for San Juan Capistrano, which is a relatively short drive from here. It's less than half an hour. And so I was getting out of the carpool lane, moving over, stepped on the accelerator, nothing happened. Just coasting.
Uh-oh.
Stepped on it a couple more times, still nothing happening. So drifted all the way over. Fortunately, traffic wasn't too bad. Got to the shoulder, threw on the hazards, and called AAA. So we waited for the tow truck guy to show up, told him what was happening, and his gut reaction was the last thing you wanted to hear, which was, it sounds like it might be the transmission.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah. Bad news bear. So, panic mode kicks into high gear. We're seeing dollar signs start to rack up. So compounding this whole problem is the fact that it's Sunday. And guess what are all closed on Sundays?
Yeah, auto shops.
Dealerships.
Yep, all of them. Whole 9 yards. So he towed us back to I have a Honda CR-V. He towed us back to the nearest Honda dealership, which fortunately wasn't too far up the road. And I went through the paperwork to do a key drop.
How old is it?
It's 2011, so it is about 8 years old.
Okay.
Not
outrageous.
No, just over 100,000 miles on it.
For a Honda, that's light.
Yeah, I mean, if you take good care of them, they'll run pretty much forever. Or into the ground, So went back this morning, got there first thing, got all the paperwork filed. They, were supposed to call me as soon as they knew something. So I got a call from them probably mid-morning, and it was fortunately not the transmission. It was the throttle body.
So the intake.
Yes. So the throttle body regulates air intake into your engine in response to pressing down on the gas pedal.
Yep. Sounds like no air was going in, so the engine was just like, I don't know what to do here, man.
Right. So the engine was just... It was running on the air and fuel that it was, it was stuck at, which was just enough to keep it moving. So they gave me a price. They're ordering a part. It should be there tomorrow morning, and I should have my car back tomorrow afternoon.
Wow.
Well, and in the meantime, they gave me a sweet Honda Odyssey minivan loaner, so I'm getting my soccer mom on.
Look, hold on.
Hey.
Sometimes the mobile living room is worth it.
I kind of wish I could sit in the back seat while I was driving and just throw in a DVD. Because it does have the DVD player.
There's no self-driving feature in that car, so I would recommend against it.
Yeah, sadly not.
Also, I just hope what happens to you is not what happened to me in my experience at the dealer last week. So.
Okay.
Oh, do we have your car back? This is a good question.
I do have my car back now, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so, it was just, I got it back on the day they ordained, which was, I think, the day the podcast went up last week. So.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
But,
yeah, I do want to give a shout out to the lady at the Avis budget rental car that was around the corner from the Honda dealership, because they had been, contrary to what Google told you, Andy, and us, they had been closed for 2 hours.
Oh.
And she was nice enough to open the doors for us and manually rent us out the last car that they had.
Well,
so that we
some
weren't
things are just meant
totally
to be.
stranded. Yeah. So super nice. Thank you, budget lady. Saved our afternoon. We got to the concert on time.
Oh, that's all's well that ends well, I guess.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's very nice.
Is it time to move on to gaming? I think it's time to move on to gaming.
I think that's enough adulting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, go clean an old controller. It'll make you feel better. Or this isn't gaming. This is nerdy. You could build Legos instead. That could help you.
Hey, building Legos is fun.
I do find that to be soothing.
I have a long story about why I went down a Lego click hole. Are you interested in this?
I mean, I like click holes. I don't know.
I'm not interested.
I like Legos.
Okay, I have been really curious about this Lego Voltron since hearing about it a little bit, and I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, and I am having a hard time not breaking down and purchasing it, but staring at it and the news about it and the reviews on it has led me down multiple avenues of clickhole deepery. First, it was Gundams, and I was like, this is cool. What other Gundam Legos have been made out there? And then that, leads down the Lego clickhole of looking for a bunch of stuff. And then you're finding things like, Gypsy Danger made out of Legos and a whole bunch of other things.
I thought you were going to say you got into Gunpla all of a sudden and were buying masterwork crafted Gunpla so you could build your sweet Gundams or whatever.
You know what? I did Gunpla back in high school. You should remember this.
I do sort of remember, yeah.
So I thankfully have already been pre-inoculated. I got that shot when I was younger. And you do not need a booster. It definitely stays with you the rest of your life that you do not want to build those again.
Are you sure, though? They seem kind of cool.
Maybe they're cooler than when I got it?
I don't know. Sorry, I'm derailing the conversation.
Resist.
This is the whole idea of this type of podcast is you're supposed to derail it. So the Lego clickhole of been hitting the Lego Ideas site and seeing what's coming out and what people are interested in.
That's
finding
a great
out
site.
if RX-79 Gundams exist in Lego or how to make them if they don't. Stuff like that. And to cure myself for the time being, which probably will end up backfiring, I watched that new Voltron series on Netflix. And it starts off like a kid's show, like you would expect. But I would, in effort to compare it to something, would compare it to Avatar: The Last Airbender. About the mid to end of the first season, the story gets a little bit serious and adult. And not adult in a mature audiences only kind of way, but adult as in there's stuff for adults there to watch. Mm-hmm. And becomes kind of anime, very much Gundam Wing style, not in the nonsensical plot, but in the art. The art is really good. It's done by DreamWorks. Much better than I expected, considering many other DreamWorks shows for Netflix, like the Dragon series and a bunch of other ones are kind of very Sunday morning, what have become Sunday morning cartoon animated shows, which are kind of cheap and quick with static, blurry backgrounds, that sort of stuff. This is really well penciled like an anime. Yeah, man. Near the end of that first season, it took a turn, and now I kind of am into it, and Yeah, this is backfiring. I'm going to get that Lego Gundam, I think.
So this is Voltron Legendary Defender, right? That show that's on Netflix?
Yes.
So I have seen that first season a while back, and I keep meaning to go back and watch more of it, and then I find out there's like been 6 seasons since I watched that first one.
Yes, they are starting the 7th season in August.
And I realize that that's too many seasons. I can't catch up. Oh no.
Well, they're only 20 minutes or something like that.
It's a lot of TV to watch, though, for a person who watches very little TV like me. It'll take a long time.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a lot of TV. I'm mid-second season. I'm hoping that at the end of the second season, they don't do the thing where the bad guy keeps escaping forever, because I can't watch 6 seasons of that anymore. I'm not that young. So hopefully that doesn't follow that track of like Nickelodeon show style, previous versions of this type of show.
The big bad not getting resolved is also very anime, so...
True.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that was a weird hole to go down, and it was all over the place, and I just had to... I guess I just had to say I finally watched the Voltron series, and it's good so far.
Hey, I mean... Great. I watched that first season, and I heartily recommend that show to people who want that stuff, because it's good.
But Legos are cool, too, also, is what my point of this story. And Gundams.
Yeah,
we need Lego Gundams as well.
If you really just want to watch Gundams, Crunchyroll has a lot of Gundam on there that you could just watch.
Is that a subscription for Crunchyroll?
No, dude. I mean, they have ads, so no. Oh, yes, there is a subscription, but you could just watch ads and then not.
You can watch Gundam for free?
I mean, there's Gundam on there.
I could do that.
Yeah, it's not going to be like great quality for no dollars, but
I don't need it to be good quality. All I need is
they have
Stompy
Gundam
Mechs.
Wing. If you want to watch Gundam Wing, it's there.
I'd rather watch.
I don't know why you would want to do that.
Do we all have have we all watched Gundam here? Just to get completely off topic.
Yeah.
So yeah,
does anyone
have
have
a long time? But
do you have a favorite or no?
I think the one that I have watched the most of was Gundam Wing, and I don't like that. I wouldn't call it my favorite. Probably like 08th MS Team.
Oh, so good. That was going to be mine.
The one that I like the best.
Yeah, that was going to be mine. 08th MS Team's so good. I'm done.
Some pretty rad stuff went on this weekend in the gaming world. The Evolution Fighting Game Championships was this past weekend.
Okay, so that has a acronym that people will probably know better than the Evolution Fighting Game Championships.
It's Evolution. That's the name of it. All right, EVO 2018.
Oh, what about Gundam Seed? That was good. I'm joking. Sorry.
So that was this past weekend. Did either of you guys catch much of the streams?
I watched a little bit of... I watched a little bit of Smash, but not a ton.
Okay.
And then I watched the top 8, although I haven't quite finished the final, of the Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
Oh, God.
Fighter Z?
I'm guessing you watched this one, JJ?
I definitely watched Dragon Ball Fighters, yeah.
It's insane.
What a game. Okay, so we'll set the stage here. Dragon Ball is the stuff I watched the most this weekend. I kind of had it on a second monitor all weekend watching whatever sounded fun. But typically that was Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball was the most entered game at EVO this year. So 2,500 competitors in a double elimination tournament, with pools and some stuff like that. Essentially, the highest entry I think they've had. Certainly for the first year for this game, obviously it's an amazing start. I don't know if it's the highest entry they've had all time for any game, but it's definitely up there. And this had more entrants than Street Fighter, which is typically the anchor game, which gets, if not the most, close to the most. And I believe I saw being kicked around out there that the stream numbers were also the highest. Maybe not like that much higher than Melee or Street Fighter, but it was a few thousand people more on Twitch anyway. And of course, they broadcast a bunch of different stuff. So,
wow,
the story of that game has been, the best players that have been playing for, paying since the game came out. Essentially, the two that have been kind of everyone sort of had their eye on since the beginning of the game was this guy Sonic Fox, who was dominant in several different other fighting games like Mortal Kombat and Injustice 2. Relatively lesser played games, just like smaller communities. But he was completely dominant in those games. Like, he was easily the top person every time. Like, he went to a tournament, he just got first place because he walked all over people. So he started playing this game and sort of had seen some early success, and then there were some patches that changed his team, and so things are a little different, and they didn't know if he was going to be able to do his stuff again. But he had played against some Japanese players, a guy specifically named Goichi, or I think it's Go1 is his tag. If you're watching the stream, that's who Goichi is. And those two guys had played against each other several times before, including one set where, late in the tournament, it seemed like Goichi had sort of figured him out completely and sort of wiped the floor with Sonic Fox.
Oh, because one is Ichi in Japanese.
There you go.
There you go. I didn't want to explain it, but thank you. And coming into this tournament, those were kind of like two of the big people that people had been watching. But in a field of 2,500 people, it's very possible that they lose in some match off stream that no one sees, and you have no idea what happens to them, and just there's 8 random people in the top 8. Because the top 8 is the only thing that gets the big numbers on Sunday, right? Because there's only one stream instead of like 5 different ones going at the same time. And lo and behold, there are Sonic Fox and Goichi in winners of top 8 at the start, And wow, I cannot talk enough great stuff about how exciting that top 8 was. I don't want to spoil the result for Michael here, who hasn't seen it. But everyone should go watch that top 8. It's not that long, especially if you skip through all the in-between time or whatever.
Yeah, it goes fast if you just sort of go to YouTube and drag to the next fight right after the one you're watching ends.
So is this the new EVO anchor game?
I don't know if they will do that or not. Certainly, Street Fighter has been anchoring EVO since EVO has existed, so I don't know that they would be willing to give that position up just because there were more entrants this year. I mean, Smash has had more entrants than Street Fighter in previous years. So, we'll see if it can sustain the stuff that it built. But man, those games this year were unbelievably good. Just some really, really crazy stuff that happened.
It's amazing to me that continues to have traction. I thought that was going to be like every Dragon Ball game. Big, gone.
Well, and that's the really impressive thing about the game, is that the game is good. Not just that, like, it's a Dragon Ball game so people like it, but it's a Dragon Ball game, and actually it's also like a really good fighting game at the same time. And the players seem to really love it, and I think it is really fun to watch. It kind of has that Marvel thing where there's a 3-on-3 tag team stuff, so there's a lot of combos and stuff blowing up on the screen all the time. But then, like, the stuff that's blowing up on the screen all the time is like Goku doing a Kamehameha, or like Vegeta doing his final flash, or whatever, the stuff that from watching Dragon Ball. So it's pretty cool. I cannot stress how hyped those games were in top 8. People should go watch them.
It might also be easier to watch than something like Overwatch for streamers or for people watching streams.
Fighting games are inherently a little easier to follow because, hey, the guys whose life bars run out loses. You always have that meter of like, hey, are all his life bars gone, or are most of his characters dead? Okay, he's losing. Like, it's easy to figure that out. With Overwatch, it's a little bit more complicated, I feel. Certainly, you're not going to get like the nuanced, deep opinions or whatever. But the commentators make it pretty fun, so I think it's a good time. And I certainly had a fun time watching it, for sure.
The Dragon Ball FighterZ commentators are hilarious.
Shout-outs to IFC Yipes, who I assume is the guy you're talking about.
Yes.
He's the best. He's been doing that since CVS2, and is really, really good. He loves those games. You can really tell with the stuff he comes up with. I think the other guy was Sajam, I think, on the stream. I heard the in-house commentators, if you were listening in the arena, were different than the ones on the stream, so I'm not sure who was where.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
But anyway, I know for sure Yipes was on the stream because I remember him.
Nice.
He got so hype about everything, and it was amazing.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, in the best way.
Yeah, you can tell he loves the game and just loves to talk about it and experience it. So
that's awesome. All right, so we're done. We're done watching. I've watched too much Voltron. You guys watched a lot of Evo. What have we been playing?
So for me, there hasn't been a ton of playing time with company in town, but I did manage.
How many hours on the freeway trying to?
Yeah, fortunately we weren't sitting there for too long.
Sorry. Anyway,
but I did manage to finish the final game in the Room series of games that I have been playing, the Room Escapes.
Oh yeah.
And the last game was really good. It was different than the first 3 games. Which was a nice change. As much as I had enjoyed the previous 3 games, this game takes place in a single room. You are in the attic of a house, and there is a giant doll house that has something sealed inside of it, and you have to break the different pieces of the seal to get at what's hidden inside. And you do that by interacting with 8 or 9 different rooms of the dollhouse itself. And so there's a lot more moving back and forth between the rooms and figuring out how the different things you're picking up interact with each other. And there are pieces missing from the dollhouse that you collect throughout the game. And when you put them back into their proper place, new rooms open up or new pieces of the dollhouse move for you to interact with. So there was more of a sense of motion in this game than there had been in some of the previous ones.
Kind of like a Mystian thing where like you do something in one place and you have to go check the other places to see how stuff moved.
Yeah. A lot of times you would get a piece of something, and if you'd been paying careful attention, you'd be able to recognize, the shape on the back of this weird gear that I got lines up with this other puzzle that I saw in a different room that was missing a piece. And so you'd have to sort of figure out, okay, this is what I have. These are the rooms that are open to me. Where does this go? And how does that change what I can interact with?
Cool.
Huh. Yeah, so definitely recommend the whole series. It was really good. This game, I could tell, was a little more processor intensive because it was pushing the limits of what my little tablet could do.
Nice. It got a little hot in the hand, huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say
it didn't get too hot, but it definitely, there were a couple of times where the video lagged the audio.
That's not what you want.
No.
Well, I can tell you sometimes what you do want though is to be a gangster in Japan and punch people a lot.
Do we want that? Because we were worried about how Japan the gangster is.
Very Japan.
Good, bad, indifferent.
So I will say that I played Yakuza 0. This feels like playing a crime movie.
Nice.
Okay.
So nice. Are you Ray Liotta or are you
kind of
Robert De Niro?
You're kind of low on the totem pole in the family, as they call it. So you kind of have to do what your higher ups, your brothers and the lieutenants and the captains in the families say. And some stuff goes down. You get framed for a murder, which is a big deal in Japan because murders don't happen that frequently. And also there was a gun involved, which is a double big deal because there are not guns in Japan.
Meaning the police are after you.
Yeah. Obviously, the Yakuza have people in the police, so they can keep the heat off you for some amount of time.
Got it.
But it's you were framed for doing this. You had gone to the. This is not really spoilers because this is literally happens in the first 10 minutes of the game. You go and beat up a guy who was taking out loans, as you do as a gangster.
Sure.
Got to collect, and you leave this guy in this this little lot where you beat him up and walk away, and then he's found there dead the next day with a gunshot to the face, and you did not have a gun. So it's a frame, and now you're trying to figure out who did it. Is there a conspiracy going on here? Well, why did it happen there? What's going on? Who is the person who hired you? All this stuff. And along the way, you get to live your life in the 80s in Japan, this area they call Kamurocho, which I think is meant to be a take on certain districts in Tokyo. And you can play mahjong or shogi and race little slot cars, go bowling, just eat at every single food restaurant, and it just kind of like it's almost like kind of a lifestyle simulator as much as it is an open world game. And man, it's really cool, you guys. I've gotten a bit further in the game, and at some point you unlock the ability to become a real estate agent, and you can start buying up property and stuff. And every time you buy property, it's like, this is like X million yen or whatever. And you basically walk up with a giant briefcase and open it. It's like, I'm making you an offer in cash. And you just like hold a giant briefcase full of money at the building. And then, now you own it. The 80s were wild. I'm really enjoying this game so far. The PC port seems pretty good. I have heard reports from people that it has some issues starting up on certain systems. I don't have any experience with that. Huh. But I mean, it's running at like over 100 frames per second on my monitor 99% of the time. Like, I think the frame cap is 240, and it hits that sometimes. So I artificially limited it lower just to keep it from burning extra cycles doing that, because I don't need 240. That's not necessary. And it just looks really good. And it's fun just running around and walking through the streets and bump into some guy and he gets mad at you for bumping into him. And so now you have to fight, right? Like that's how it goes when you're a gangster. Yeah. You can't let some random dude bump into you. He has to catch some hands now. So you got to,
beefing over turf.
That's right, man. He's on your family's turf. You got to take that traffic cone and hit him in the face with it really hard, or suplex him, or sometimes grab one of those signs that are out in front of buildings and just like knock his head off. His head doesn't actually come off, but he like goes flying like it's a cartoon. It's pretty funny. I really am
violence
enjoying
outside of video games.
No, it is silly violence, and like to the point where like the various fighting styles that you can switch between kind of have their own thing. One is like a fast, quick strikes kind of a thing, and almost like Muhammad Ali, like sting like a float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, and then there's one that's basically dedicated to like doing silly wrestling moves on people and stuff, where you can literally suplex people and stuff. Mm-hmm. And man, there's just so many moving parts and silly things you can do. And there's this main story you can go through, and like there are cutscenes that are really long. Like I sat for 10 minutes watching the story unfold. It is all in Japanese, I guess. There's no English voice acting. It's all translated in the the subtitles and the text below, but so it's all Japanese. Really, just no English voice at all, except for the parts where the Japanese is also English, because that happens a lot too.
Yep.
Karaoke is really fun, you guys. You can play karaoke in this game. It's like a rhythm game kind of thing, like press the buttons in time with the music and stuff. And like meanwhile, behind the like hard rhythm game you are playing, the guy is like rocking out on the microphone, and then it kind of does like a fantasy wipe into like him being on the stage, like with biker tattoos and like a huge leather jacket and a huge guitar and like playing along with the music. It's very silly.
Everything you hoped it would be.
It's very, very fun so far. Yeah.
Nice.
I want to hear if another game lived up to our medium expectations. Michael, did you try Magic?
Andy. I did. For the first time ever, play a couple of games of Magic. And it was... so the tutorial was good. I liked the tutorial.
I can see where this is going.
But yeah. So, the tutorial is set up very well for someone who has never played, like has no background in it. It starts you out, and sure, it doesn't explain everything that's going on because there's a ton of moving parts, but you sort of get the hang of it quickly enough. And they, through those first 5 tutorial fights, they sort of introduce a concept or two that's new in each one, and the cards that you're playing out of your deck grow a little bit each time. And so you feel like you're, sort of incrementally learning some of the basics of the back and forth of combat. And then you finish that last one, and you get your big treasure chest full of loot, and then they throw you in the deep end.
Welcome to full Magic. Here's every card that has ever existed and all the other people who have played this game for forever.
And basically that was where I stopped. Because at that point, I didn't even know how to go. Because the first thing I did was to click on the now much maligned Decks tab. There's no kind of instruction on... They give you a brief 1-sentence description of what each color deck is strong in, but there's no sort of help in this is how a deck is crafted, and this is how many lands you need versus how many creatures you need, and here's how decks interact with each other, and...
Yeah, I don't understand that play tab either, where you just you're dropped onto that main screen, and then you look at the play tab, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll try to play, and then there's all the boats, and there's no description of them. You know what I mean? So,
and they set you up really well. They set you up really well for disappointment, because in the tutorial there are a lot of things that you can mouse over, and they give you descriptions of, oh, this is what this card does, or this is what
where do those go?
This part of the where are those inside the game client? I'd love to have had one of those for the different colors of decks in the deck tab.
So, to be fair, once you get back into an actual game and you have cards in front of you, those helpful things exist again. So, if you have a card in your hand and you mouse over it, it'll show up on your screen, and you can see, oh, this is what Vigilance does, or this is what Lifelink does, or this is what First Strike does, that kind of stuff. But again,
but when those descriptions would be really useful.
Yeah, when you're trying to put the cards in your deck because you don't know what they do. I agree. They have their deck. Andrew and I belabored this point, I think, for quite a while on the last podcast, and their deck builder is troubled at the least. It's pretty bad.
And I understand that at some point you kind of have to let a beta be a beta, right? You got to throw everything out there to see what doesn't work. But you got to help people at least a little bit who are new to this, or they're not going to stick with it long enough to try the game when it actually comes out.
I think, unfortunately, there's enough people don't use the deck builder in the actual client because they have an import feature, and if you get the cards listed in such a specific way or whatever, you can click import deck or whatever.
I really hope
and it will
they're
just
not relying on that
deck for you.
That sucks.
And that sucks super bad, right? Because you go to popular website X or whatever that lists a bunch of Magic decks, you can import the popular one, and if you have the cards, it auto-populates them or shows you which ones you're missing. And that's lame because, number one, you should be able to build stuff inside the client, and number two, that's not really the way if someone who doesn't know, if you're trying to bring new people into the thing that have not played Paper Magic or whatever, they're not going to know about these other places. So yeah, they really need to improve the experience of building decks and stuff inside the client, especially because a game like Magic is deep and there's a lot in there. There's 60 cards. You can do a lot with 60 cards, and 4 copies of each or less. What do you want to do? There's a lot to go into there.
I wish there was a way visually maybe to re-engineer their deck builder to give you more of a flat view of your deck. Right now they give you the what I'll call the Hearthstone tab on the side, where you're kind of like looking at like the names of things and that's okay. Right? It's like, oh, here's your mana curve and here's the names of the things and where they are in the list. And that's okay. But really, for a lot of people that play Magic, especially with the huge card allotment, what I would rather have is maybe the ability to click out of that and into what I would call the deck building of the past, which was you sat down with your big box, right? And you pulled out every blue or green or whatever deck you were playing card that you thought was interesting. I'm going to play Thalids. I pulled out every Thalid card and all my lands and all this other stuff, and I laid it all out, and there was 150 cards there. And I stared at them and then saw the combos and started putting cards back in the box.
So there is a second view in the deck builder. I don't know if you've tried it, that moves the cards from being a tab along the side to like a big thing in the middle of the screen across the bottom. Mm-hmm. So the cards are closer to full-size art and stuff, and they're kind of like lumped into columns by mana cost.
Right.
And then the cards along the top, you can scroll around.
I just think that they would be well served by creating a more manipulative deck builder than every other game out there, right? Like, have the most like in-depth view of a deck builder where you can feel like you're manipulating a paper deck somehow. And that might be, a scrollable list or something, but like what we're looking at now is like a bastardized version of the Hearthstone one, and it does not work for Magic.
Yeah, there are too many interactions and too many different, keywords and triggers and stuff in Magic for really you need more tools. I don't know what those tools are. I mean, at a minimum, you need more ways to filter, right? There's a box at the top you can type in and type whatever word you want, and it tries to filter on that stuff. I don't think it's very good. It's like kind of 50-50 on whether it hits the stuff that you actually want. Mm-hmm. But like, I can't say like sort and show me all of the cats, sort and show me all of the vampires, sort and show me all the knights or all the Thalids or whatever.
Yeah. The thing,
you can sort by color, or whether I own or don't own it, but you can't sort by set. Like, what?
One of the things though that you end up with Magic, Michael, I don't know if you saw this in some of the things, is that it's not like Hearthstone where it's like your beasts get this, your creatures get this. A lot of the times it's like a tertiary involvement. Your tokens get +1/+0. Well, that's like a subset of a subset of a subset, right? They're not just your creatures. It's not just your servos, but it's your tokens, right? And so knowing those types of interactions are kind of crazy, and like finding those types of cards is not something that a beginner does, and they really need a way to point people to having the option to see all these things that could help their deck somehow, right? Because it's great to look up, I'm going to build a Thopter token deck. Oh, Tezzert, by the way, is the planeswalker that I have 2 of, and man, did my deck win games when he was, if I got to 9, it was just like done.
Yep, like I told you, right? They're very powerful.
Even his +1 was powerful.
Like all of the abilities are powerful.
But okay, so you search Thopter, right? And you could find and make a 60-card deck of people that just made or interacted directly with the word Thopter. That's not a good deck. Well, you really...
Because half
the cards you need in there are cards that affect artifacts or affect tokens, or you know what I mean? Because Thopters are artifact creature tokens.
Yeah.
So, the interactions you have to build are much bigger than that little side tab or some sort of scrolling through 6 cards at a time, and they need a bigger view to show you that.
And it's more along the lines of when you play a card that says it makes like a 1/1 Thopter token. Okay, well, I know what a Thopter... I know it. Whatever this token is, it's called a Thopter, and I know that it's a token because it says the word token. How did you know it was an artifact? How did you know it was a creature? It doesn't say those words. You have to know by doing it, right?
Or by reading the card that created it that said, create a 1/1 artifact creature token Thopter. You know what I mean?
Right, but like sometimes it doesn't say that. It just says create a 1/1 Thopter token.
Right.
And you're like, well, okay, but like how do I know that's an artifact? Mm-hmm. How do I know that's a whatever? So you don't know to even search for those terms because, once you go, oh, well, it's a token. Okay, maybe I want to search for the word token. I have things that create tokens. Okay, then you see a whole second class of cards, but then you don't realize the artifact connection, and there's a whole bunch of cards that interact with those. The game has a lot of levels, like a lot more levels than Hearthstone. And yeah, their building stuff is inadequate to keep up with the layers that Magic has.
All right. Well, we should leave it with only the thought that they also need to be able to let me play different colored, different art lands, right?
Yeah, I mean, the art is like half the fun of playing these games because the stuff is very silly.
Yeah.
I think anyway.
So Michael will... anyway, so... Michael?
Yeah.
Would you be up for trying it again when there's a Play Friends feature?
Yeah, I will definitely give it another chance.
All right.
Just, knowing how much the people who like the game say it is a great game when you really get into it. I will give it another chance.
All right.
But
well, if people have other suggestions on how to fix the deck builder, where should they do that?
That's going to be podcast@weweregamers.com.
Or magicthegatheringarena.com.
Yeah, I don't know what their support at MTG Arena or Wizards of the Coast or something. I don't know. Anyway, yes, please tell the people at Wizards the things they need to fix about their game.
I'm sure they'll listen.
Not because we want them to do it now, but because we want their game to be good.
Right. Yeah. Also, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Instagram. Sure. We're on there. Mm-hmm. And we're served up on all the places that fine podcasts are sold, but they're not sold because this podcast is free. At We Were Gamers. It's real easy.
Yeah, weweregamers.com even.
Yeah, you can go
website.
There. That's a good place to go. Yeah. And in the meantime, Michael, did you like any of the particular colors you played?
I basically just played white because that was the tutorial. So
did you like any of the ones you played against?
What did I play against? The last one was red
and black. I think,
or red and was it red and black?
It was like multicolored because it was a dragon.
I didn't know enough to know.